All right. Welcome to our July 25th, 2023 Queen City Toastmasters. I am Cameron Hamrick, your Sergeant at Arms. So we got one guest here. So if you need bathrooms, you can probably go around that way. The men's is up here. Women's is back here. Don't use that one. Or you can go back here. There's one back here. So to kick it off, last week, a tornado hit Rocky Mount, North Carolina on Wednesday. Luckily, no casualties, but it did a lot of damage to the Pfizer pharmaceutical plant and ruined 3 months supply worth of drugs, I believe it was. So I thought I would take tonight to go over tornado safety. So does anybody know what the difference in a tornado watch and a tornado warning is? This is open forum. Jamie? Correct. So for those of you online, the answer is tornado watch is the conditions are favorable for a tornado to form, and tornado warning is an actual tornado has been seen on the ground. So if you ever are in a situation where there's a tornado watch or a warning, the first thing to do is seek shelter immediately. Go to the center of the building, away from the windows as far as you can. Go to the lowest floor in that building. Cover yourself with a blanket, rug, pillow, thick jacket, or anything that can protect you from flying debris. But some things you can do before tornado gets here, I'm not a doomsday prepper by any means, but you can have some certain things on hand. Bottled water, you can have that on hand for any reason. So might as well have it, because power goes out, grocery stores, or, the trees in the road, you can't get to the grocery store. You need supplies on hand. So have bottled water on hand, non-perishable food items, canned foods, stuff of that nature. Because again, if power goes out, anything in your refrigerator, you're gonna have to eat it pretty quick. Have lots of batteries, battery packs for your cell phone so you can charge those, battery powered lights and radio. First aid kit. We have 2 or 3 in my house, all throughout the house. And I got one in my car as well. So first aid kit. And then if you have lots of money, which I don't, you can have a generator, which is always good to have in case the power goes out. So there's my tornado safety tips, since we just had one hit North Carolina 6 days ago. An EF3, by the way, which is F1, F2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's right in the middle of the road. So pretty powerful stuff. But anyway, with that, I will turn it over to our presiding officer, Dr. Eric Laxer. Please help me welcome Dr. Eric.
Thank you, Cameron. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. We are delighted that all of you have joined us here tonight. For those of you who are revisiting guests or new guests, you will get to experience a typical Toastmasters meeting this evening, and all the people you see coming up here to fulfill roles have signed up for those roles, and we alternate from meeting to meeting. We always kick our meeting off by giving our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves and to just let us know how they found us or what they're looking for at a Toastmasters meeting. And so I'm going to walk around the room, and I'm going to start over here. I see we have 3 guests who are present, so please share with us anything you like about our meeting. I know you were here last week, but if you like, just introduce yourself and tell us why you're here.
Hey everybody, my name is Onosi. I was here last week. I pretty much just came out to become better at public speaking and getting my thoughts and ideas communicated in a better way. So that's why I'm here.
Great. And for those of you who have been here for the first time, 2 things. One is this microphone is only connected to our Zoom meeting, so you won't hear through the speakers here. And just speak up if you can, just project your voice just a little bit.
What's up, guys? Martin here. I work in sales. I work in sales. About to say Martin from Allegiance, my company name. But yeah, no, I think maybe 5th or 6th time here. And just want to get better at public speaking, communicating, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Thank you and welcome. If you want to do the same, David, please.
Hey everyone, my name is David. I live right down the road. Heard about Toastmasters through a colleague at work who said it's a great way to improve your public speaking, storytelling, presenting in work, things like that. That's about it. But yeah, happy to be here and see what everything's all about.
Thank you all. And there will be opportunities for you to participate during the meeting. And also we will come back to you at the end of the meeting to give you an opportunity to just say a few words one more time. It's a policy or tradition that we try to give everybody who comes to the meeting a chance to speak in one way or another. So either you have a role that you play, or you participate in our table topics, or we give you an opportunity to just say a few words at the end of the meeting. Couple of things I want to do. The first one is pass on a message from Yasmin, who's one of our members who couldn't be here this evening. She was signed up for a role, but she sent me a message before the meeting that unfortunately the daughter of a good friend of hers, the daughter's name is Kelsey, passed away in a car accident this weekend. And so she is spending time with her friends, family, and she asked us to send our prayers, our strength, and our positive energy to Kelsey's parents. So please keep her in mind. My next order of business is to introduce our Toastmaster of the Day. And we are honored to have our Toastmaster of the Day role filled by Vanessa, who is online. Vanessa has been with our club for at least 5 years. She's held various leadership positions, including having been past president. Every role that I have seen Vanessa do, she has done with class, poise, has given very constructive feedback to me and others when doing speech evaluations. And I have learned something every time she has been Toastmaster of the Day. So I anticipate the same thing tonight. Just an example of some of the themes she has chosen in the past. Do things that scare you. For many of us, that was walking through the door our very first night here at Toastmasters. Celebrating diversity is another one, which I recall, which was excellent. And the theme she has chosen today is on happiness. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to our Toastmaster of the Day, Vanessa Waller.
Thank you, Eric, and welcome, Queen City Toastmasters and guests. Gosh, it's always a unique meeting every time, and you know, my theme today was chosen a few days ago as I was reading an article, and you know, it feels like a little bit more of a sobering meeting, hearing about the tragic accident, and you know, as we're here helping each other with our speaking, I'm sure we can send our love to that family. But you know, I hope that my theme of cultivating happiness is a universal one that we can all relate to in some way. And, you know, I was inspired by this theme because I was reading an article by Jenny Santee from Time magazine, and she quotes a Chinese proverb, and it goes like this: if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help somebody. And at first I was thinking, you know, that sounds a little bit cliche. I'm not sure if that's anything new that everyone hasn't already heard many times before. But I thought about it a bit more in my own life, and I thought, well, how many times do I decide to stay a little too late at work or do something that maybe feels like more of an obligation rather than something that's genuinely motivated by helping others? And I challenged myself a little bit more this week to think about, how is my work actually helping others? And am I staying late because I am peer pressured? Or is it more because I really care about this project and helping this client, and I really want that love for my work to come through? And that simple question of how is this helping me help others has really helped me feel better, even though I'm a little bit busy this week at the office. It's helped me to stay grounded. And I've also read that making sure you're acting according to your values is very good to do for overall well-being. And of course, it benefits others as well. But that's a nice, inspiring thought to keep in mind. but I am not going to be the only one sharing inspiration and ideas tonight. In fact, we have a role for that. We have an inspirational thought master. And tonight, that role is filled by our Sergeant at Arms, Cameron Hamrick. So please help me re-welcome Cameron back to the stage.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vanessa. So I thought about what makes me happy. What is happiness and what is the pursuit of happiness? How do you get it? Is it something you can buy, something you can grow? Is it a number of friends or lack thereof? What is happiness? I found, though, that one thing keeps coming back to me. I cannot have happiness in my life unless I have one thing, and that is a good attitude. We have these core values at my job. We have 5 core values. One of them is attitude. It's the one that I like the most. Why? Because it's the one that's most contagious. When I come to work every day, if I come with a poor attitude, it's going to rub off on those around me, and it might negatively affect their attitude. Flip side of the coin is if I come to work with a positive attitude, a lot of charisma, positive vibes, happy thoughts, that also affects people. It makes them have a positive attitude. I like attitude so much that I have this quote, this passage by Charles Swindoll in my office. I printed a copy here, and I'd like to share it with you. But just the impact of attitude. It says, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than success, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, or a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string that we have, and that is our attitude. And the last sentence is my favorite. Listen to this. I'm convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Cameron. I loved how that message of having the right attitude really does dovetail with that theme of long-term happiness. And I'm sure that maybe in the short term, having a really grumpy attitude might feel justified and feel satisfying. But long-term, having a more positive attitude, I'm sure, is a lot better overall. So I love that idea too. Our next helper tonight has generously agreed to step in to fill the role of grammarian, and that is Toastmaster Jacqueline. So thank you so much, Jacqueline, for stepping in for Colin tonight, and please help me welcome her to the stage.
Hi, is this not right? That was easier than I thought. Hi, everyone. My name's Jackie, and I'm the grammarian today. What that means is that I will be looking out for grammar mistakes and filler words. I'll also be noting your cool words, quotes, thoughts, basically anything that's intriguing to me. Additionally, I'm here to reveal your happy word of the day, which is elated. The word elated means to be extremely happy and excited, often because something has happened or been achieved. That being said, I'm elated to be your grammarian today, and I will be reporting on the use of the word of the day and grammar usage at the end of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jackie, for that excellent overview of the grammarian role, and we will make sure to try to use the word elated as we are speaking tonight. Our next helper will help us to keep track of how long we are speaking for. All of us have had the experience of giving a speech that runs a little bit too long or maybe is a little bit too short. So please help me welcome our timer, Toastmaster Michael Mendez.
Good evening, everyone. I will be doing the timers report for tonight, where I will be timing the amount of time you spend speaking at the podium. So for our speeches, you're aiming to speak for at least 5 minutes, where I will raise the green card. At 6 minutes, I'll raise the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I'll raise the red card. For our table topics, you're aiming to speak for at least 1 minute, where I'll raise the green card. At 1.5 minutes, I'll raise the yellow card. At 2 minutes, I'll raise the red card. And for our general evaluations, we're aiming to speak for at least 2 minutes, where I'll raise the green card. 2.5 minutes, I'll raise the yellow card. And at 3 minutes, I'll raise the red card.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. All right, and now to the main event of our Toastmasters meeting tonight, our speeches. It looks like on our agenda tonight, we just have the one speaker, David Jones, who is also our past president and I should say past president / sergeant at arms extraordinaire. And he will be giving a speech tonight entitled My Communication Styles, about his preferred style of communicating. So David, thank you so much for speaking tonight, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So evidently, my older daughter, Tanya, was chewing gum in school and the teacher caught her. Now, this is in the late 1990s. She went to a small private Christian school in Miami, Florida. And this was before the internet, before phones, before texting. Back then, the teacher would put a note in the kid's backpack and send them home, or you'd hope your kid would come home and tell you what happened. Well, that day, Tanya came home and she asked me for 50 cents. And I said, what do you need 50 cents for? And she said, well, I was chewing gum in school and the teacher caught me and she fined me 50 cents. Evidently, she would fine students a certain amount of money based on the infraction, and chewing gum was 50 cents. Now, when I heard this, I have to admit, I was a little elated because that didn't sound right. It sounded improper, and I got to deal with it. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, good evening. That was my first form of communication, was writing letters. I had to write a letter back to the teacher questioning where that 50 cents was going to go to. Was it going to go in her pocket? Was it going to go to the church fund or the school fund? I was curious about that. Long story short, I didn't pay the 50 cents and she no longer charged students any money for infractions. But I learned that I could write a letter, think about it, compose it properly, send it off, and I would get an immediate response and action. And it turns out that I was really good at it. I found out later that teachers at her school were unhappy when they would get a letter from Mr. Jones, even the faculty and the staff, the administrative staff there, because Tanya was an honor roll student. She did sports. She was awesome. She never got in trouble. And when they messed with her, I would let them know. My daughters are 10 years apart. So Nicole's my younger child. And she went to the same school 10 years later. Now we're in the 2000s. We're getting emails. And now when there's an infraction, the school would send an email and you would know what happened at school before the kid even got home. Now you're probably thinking my next form of communication was emails, but it was not, because Nicole is my second child. And if you have kids, you know the second one is different than the first one. So I would get the email and say, yeah, that sounds about right. So the school got a little payback because I'd have to walk through school with my head down, like, you know, Nicole's my daughter. But at that time, where we lived in Miami, we lived in a nice community. It had like 12 or 1,300 homes, and I was on the board of directors. In fact, I was on every single board, every single committee. And if you think about 12 or 1,300 homes, that means there's at least 3,000 people in our community. But there's only like 10 of us that did everything to help the community going. And then we had 3,000 people criticizing us. But fortunately, one of the committees I was on was the newsletter committee. And back then, we would actually print out a monthly newsletter, put it in a little clear piece of plastic, and put them on the mailboxes in every single home. And that's kind of where I found my second form of communication, and that was writing in the newsletter. I did write nice articles. I did write informative information, but we were a very strict community. You couldn't have your boat parked in the driveway or a commercial vehicle or a monster truck. You couldn't paint your house whatever color you wanted. You had to mow the lawn. And inevitably, people would still do these things. So in the newsletter, I would point out these infractions. I wouldn't mention them by name, but there were times where people would come to our board meetings and say that they were going to sue me for defamation. I said, well, I didn't mention you in the thing. And they'd say, yeah, but you said this person did this and that and this and that, and I did that. And I was like, so you're the one. They would sell themselves out. But that was fun for me because now I was able to communicate through written word once again, but to a bigger audience. And then I found Toastmasters. And Toastmasters gave me a voice where I could speak to people, which is really how we should speak. And that's why all of you are here now. A voice where I could talk to somebody face to face about a problem I'm having or an idea I have and be able to get an immediate response. When we write a letter or send an email or a text, we send it out and we kind of wait and see what happens. We kind of cross our fingers. But when we have face-to-face communication, you get an immediate response. You can see their facial expressions, hear the tones, and see their body language, and you kind of know where you need to go with your conversation. So I went from writing letters and communication style to newsletters to speaking one-on-one. My challenge to you all is to continue to come up here week after week and speak and learn how to communicate so you're more confident when you're speaking face to face. Before Toastmasters, I was non-confrontational. Has a lot to do with my childhood and the way my parents raised me, but that's a whole nother story. But I would never want to confront anybody. But, you know, I've got the confidence here, and now I'm able to speak to somebody. And it's not confrontational. It's just a normal conversation, one-on-one. The other challenge I have for you is to call somebody. We all text everybody. If you call somebody, they're going to freak out. So just for the fun of it, call one of your friends or something, not now, but later. Just call and say hello and have a general conversation with them, because that's what we're here for, is to speak the spoken word and use our voices. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. And I loved how you mentioned calling people, because I think that calling is underrated. I know that we're so used to texting, but I do feel as though too much screen time maybe is not the best recipe for long-term happiness, and social connection absolutely is a big part of cultivating happiness. And so relatable too about the importance of learning both the written word communication and verbal communication. And I agree, they're sort of like two different art forms, but both very valuable. So now, if we could have a brief timers report before our table topics, and we'll check in on the time for our speaker tonight and then transition to the next segment of the meeting.
David did a great job with his speech. He came in at 6 minutes and 13 seconds.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. And now we have table topics, which is an awesome opportunity to practice impromptu speaking, especially if you are a guest. And please help me welcome our table topics master, also our treasurer, Jamie Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. It's a bit of a stretch to say I'm elated to be your table topics master, but I am happy to be your table topics master this evening. Table topics, what is it? It's an opportunity for both our members as well as our guests to practice their impromptu speaking. For 1 to 2 minutes, as Mike said, you'll come up here, I'll ask a series of questions and you'll have a chance to think on the fly. This is also an opportunity to practice your improvisation. Think of it as verbal jazz. And the great jazz musician Miles Davis once said, in improvisation, there are no mistakes. And that's true of table topics as well. There are no mistakes. So be bold, come on up here, give it a try. Who's my first volunteer? Yes, Martin? All right, I will ask your question and I'll hand you the mic so the folks on Zoom can hear you. Yeah, make sure we're got you on camera. All right, so your question is: pursuit of happiness the most important thing in life?
Feel like I'm a bit young to answer this one. Let me think. Can you repeat it?
Sure. Is pursuit of happiness the most important thing in life?
Yeah. It's a great question, and I feel it's a very loaded one, and requires a lot of thought. Is the pursuit of happiness the most important thing in life? I think purpose is the most important thing in life, and I'll tell you why. I think with purpose, we chase helping others, which kind of impacts our community more. We're helping other people more, while with the pursuit of, but then you could argue if you're pursuing happiness, then you're making yourself happy. So then you could give out more, so you can outflow more after that. So again, it's a great deep question, very loaded, that I feel I would like to spend a bit more time thinking about, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Table Topics does challenge us to debate our own thoughts in the moment, so I appreciate you arguing both sides of that as well. Do we have another volunteer? This is Amari. Did I get it? Remind me your name. Anosi. All right. I will read your question. I'll hand you the mic. All right. Your question: is happiness an outcome or a choice, and why?
Is happiness an outcome or a choice in life, or choice, and why? I think that happiness is a choice, or no, an outcome in life, because it's based off of like whatever you're doing at the time. So I kind of believe that happiness is in the doing of something. So like, say you could go out, like she said earlier, if you want to be happy for a day, go fishing. So while you're fishing, you can be happy doing that because you're catching fish, you're bonding with somebody if you brought them. But yeah, I think happiness is more of a outcome based on what you're doing.
All right, thank you. There are no right answers. This is just about sharing the first thing that comes into your head. We've got plenty of time, I think. I've got 5 loaded up, but we'll see. Jackie? Oh, we'll do our guests and then we'll come around to our members. All right, David. Congratulations for coming up on your very first meeting. That's awesome. All right, your question: how do you help others achieve happiness?
I would like to start with what Madam Toastmaster started with earlier, in that finding the purpose in your life or happiness in your life starts with helping others. And so helping others and helping others find happiness is a great way for you to find purpose and happiness in your own life. So for me, I think a big piece of my life is relationships. And so building those relationships and cultivating them and trying to become close with others and learn what they like to do and things that they like to talk about, can build that relationship further. In doing so, you can make a friend, and at the end of the day, sometimes a friend is all anyone ever needs. So even just by initiating conversation, you can help other people find happiness. And that, I would say, is just the beginning of it all. And then you can go many more directions after the fact. But I think that's how you help others find happiness, just by starting with a conversation.
Thank you. We're just flying through these. Congratulations, everybody, so far. Jackie? All right. Your question: how has your definition of happiness changed over time?
I am the first grandchild, daughter, niece, you name it. I was the first. I was spoiled. I was a princess, and I loved every second of it. However, as I grew older, that mindset didn't really necessarily set me up for success. So over the years, I have practiced being grateful, and that's really helped me build this toolkit that I needed throughout life. Being grateful for taking your right step and your left step and just waking up and breathing. And so I definitely have found a different type of happiness, but overall gratefulness has elevated my overall experience with that definition. And you should all read The Magic. That is the book that changed my life. I don't know if anyone has ever heard it. It is a sequel of The Secret, which is a movie/book. I'm sure y'all recognize that emblem, which I'm not sure what that emblem is. It's just a red circle. I can't identify what it means right now, but great book. Gratefulness is key to a happy life, and I encourage you all to read it. Changed my life, so I'm sure it'll change yours.
Oh, it was great. How has your definition of happiness changed over time? That was a great example. You have embraced gratefulness as a catalyst for happiness. Fantastic. All right. We've got plenty of time. I've only got one more prepared. I'm going to start riffing here in a second. Did you want to do? Wait. I'm going to start scrabbling furiously over here in the corner. All right, Nick, your question. What do you do to restore happiness in your life? That's just a fancy way of saying what makes happy.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters guests. Can you repeat the question one more time?
What do you do to restore happiness?
To restore happiness. Actually, it's an important question to ask yourself, because out in the world, there's a lot of ways that the happiness is taken from you. Stress, worries, deadlines, everything wears you out. So it's important to know where you can restore it. My boss actually asked me the other day, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Personally, I'm an introvert. I like my time away from everybody else in order to regain my strength, regain my happiness. And he put it to me like this, that at the beginning of the day, you have a sack of coins. And every time you interact with somebody, you're dropping a coin here, dropping a coin here, dropping a coin there. So by the end of the day, if you've had a busy interactive day, you're all out of coins. You're bone dry. And he has asked me to make sure you find your place where you can restore that and replenish your bag of coins so you're ready for the next day. And getting that little bit of time to myself, I sometimes will go stand out on my back porch away from the TV, put my phone down, and just take a moment to breathe away from everything else. and actually have a thought finished to completion instead of being interrupted by a phone call, a text, somebody else in the house. That is my time just to let my thoughts run to the end, regain some of my coins for the day, and regain some of my happiness. So first question to ask yourself, are you an introvert? Do you need time alone? Or are you an extrovert that needs to be around others to refill your coin purse for the next day? Thank you.
Interesting metaphor, the coins. I don't think I've heard that one before. Other questions or other volunteers? Mike? Mike's getting his timing situation in order. He'll be here shortly. You ready? Yeah. All right, Mike, your question is, do you put other people's happiness above your own? And why do you think that's the case?
It's a great question. I would say in the past, I definitely have not put other people's happiness above my own. And that's actually been a conscious thing that I've been being mindful of lately. I realize that sometimes I get real caught up in my own personal goals, my own personal challenges, and whether it's work, whether it's other activities that I have. I get so caught up in those things that I forget to think about the people around me and thinking about what they're going through. So just last week, I just started this thing where I'm starting to reach out to friends, just checking up on them. I'm a network engineer, so I'm in the IT space, and I have a friend that just got into IT, started taking some IT certifications, and so he just got his first IT job. So it just dawned on me just to send him a random text to see how the job was going, his first job, how the job was going, and then just offer help in case he needed it. I've been in this space for about 9 years now, so I feel like I have a lot of knowledge to give, especially to someone who's just starting in the field. So I'm based on history, I haven't put other people's happiness ahead of mine. And even now, I'm not sure I want to put their happiness ahead of mine, but I definitely want to be more mindful of other people's happiness, and especially the people that I care about. So, yeah.
Great response. Do we have any last volunteers? Eric's coming up. All right, Toastmaster Eric. I can read your question. All right, your question. How are things that made you happy? How did you pass those on to your children?
The question was, how are the things that made you happy? How did you pass them on to your children? Thank you, Jamie. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm elated to have that question. I would say that's actually not a difficult question to answer, because it really just comes down to spending time with people, being with people, creating and sharing memories together. And I forget how the expression goes, but it's something like, in life, you don't usually remember what people say to you, but you remember how they made you feel. And so happiness is a feeling, an emotion. I remember the things growing up that made me happy, and that was usually spending time with my family and friends and doing fun things like vacations and holidays and things like that. And so from the time we have 2 kids, from the time our kids were little, my wife and I really made a point of just spending time with them. And sometimes it was big things like going on vacation or taking them on a trip. But much more often than that, it was the little things, just day in and day out, being there with my kids after school, being there with them at night, reading them books when they were little, trying to go to their sporting events when they were growing up. And that really, I think, was probably the most important way of showing them through our own experiences how to pass things that made you happy onto our kids. Thank you for that great question.
Thank you, Toastmaster Eric. All right. I think that concludes our table topics portion. I congratulate all of you for taking this opportunity to blow your proverbial improvisational horns. With that, I will hand it back to our Toastmaster of the evening, Toastmaster Vanessa.
Thank you, Table Topics Master Jamie, for an excellent table topics, and kudos for coming up with so many questions that were both relevant to the theme and really thought-provoking. I loved listening to everyone's answers, and I think we had so much participation as a percent of everyone who showed up tonight, so I'm really impressed. Thanks, everyone. Before we move on to our evaluations, I'd like to call for a timers report for our table topics contestants. So let's welcome our timer, Mike, back up to the stage.
So first, I just want to start off by apologizing because I realized that I was forgetting to raise up the cards for a few of the first speakers, but I was so elated to hear everyone speak that, lost my train of thought. So anyway, starting with Martin, he spoke for 1 minute and 6 seconds. Anosi spoke for 50 seconds. David spoke for 1 minute and 16 seconds. Jackie spoke for 1 minute and 38 seconds. Nick spoke for 1 minute and 56 seconds. Myself, I spoke for 1 minute and 38 seconds. And Eric spoke for 1 minute and 41 seconds.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sounds like everyone qualified based on that lineup. So good job, everyone. Our next segment of the meeting is focused on improving our speaking skills through receiving evaluation and feedback. So for that section of the meeting, I will turn it over to our general evaluator. And tonight, our general evaluator is going to be Nick Foster. Please help me welcome Nick.
I'm back. So this is kind of a shift in the evening of the whole meeting. We've gone from the practice session going into the evaluation portion of the meeting. And that's where the learning, the lessons, what we can improve on, but it's not a time to just say, hey, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you did it. That's not the takeaway here. The evaluations are meant to highlight the positives of what's been done for the evening and helps enlighten the areas where we can improve, because that's a big reason why many of us are here. How do we improve? So I'll be going through some of the reports from the other Toastmasters that have had roles this evening. We'll also be calling up the speech evaluator from Dave's speech to give him individual criticism. And this is one of the critical portions of the meeting. When you are a member of Toastmasters, you give your speech, there's one dedicated member that is focused on your body language, the words you're saying, everything about your presentation in order to give you that feedback at the end so that you can roll that into your next topic, and your next topic, and you can see yourself, the growth through that period. We already ran through the timers report, so I'm good on that, right? So I will be elated to call up Jackie for the grammarians report. Evaluator first? First time. All right, so evaluator will be Eric. Elvis? Man, coming at me left and right. All right, Elvis online, former president of the club. Elvis, please proceed with your evaluation.
Thank you, Nick. Mr. General Evaluator, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I am elated about the opportunity to be the evaluator for David's speech tonight. Thank you, David, for such an amazing speech. You showed us your communication style. And by way of your speech, you showed us how good of a communicator you are. I would like to go through the structure of your speech. You started with giving us an introduction that continued with the segue of the content that you wanted to deliver about the 3 forms of communication, the 3 stories that you used for that, and what led to showing at the end what you have achieved throughout the years and how your communication style has changed. One of the things that I was really happy to see was how comfortable you continue to feel while you are at this stage. You gave us 3 stories and showed us how good of a storyteller you are. Your first story immediately caught my attention when you were speaking, or you're talking about your first daughter, how things were in the past. And I completely moved myself and traveled through time, imagining that space with no internet and how things were when the teachers would put messages on the backpack and send a note to the parents. Well, you continue through that same storytelling to let us know about the second way of communication and how you, in every one of those occasions, showed us that you were very immediate at responding because what you were looking for was an immediate action. And how your style continued evolving through the years and until you found what you consider to be your voice after joining Toastmasters. I like how conversational your style was. You sounded like you were just talking to each one of us. One of the things that I would challenge you on is specifically on how to introduce some vocal variety. You started with a very good tone and ended with a very good tone. It was very clear, loud, and very easy to understand and follow, but it was always at the same tone, at the same pace, and ended in the same way that you started. So probably introducing a little bit of pauses, maybe changing a little bit the tone in some stages throughout the different changes that you were making throughout the years and the different seasons. Maybe that would actually introduce some variety. One of the things that I also liked was the gesture. You would use your hands and move also with a lot of confidence. But one of the other things that I would challenge you on is on using the stage more and be more intentional about the way you move. At times, you feel like going back and forth, but it would definitely, it would have helped me to see you move with a little bit more intention. Also, something that you can use when changing from one stage to another. And finally, I like the way you summarized your different stages, your different experiences. I like the challenges that you provided us, and specifically to go and speak and call someone, basically finding the human side of each one of us while we are trying to find our own voices. Again, I think it was a wonderful speech, great structure, great content, very relevant and very well delivered. And I look forward to your next speech. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Elvis, for that insightful review of David's speech tonight. And now we are going to timer's report for Elvis's evaluation. Michael?
Just Elvis or both?
Just Elvis, sir.
Elvis spoke for 5 minutes and 6 seconds.
Thank you, Michael. And for those that are new to the meeting tonight, you've kind of noticed that we have people watching the watchers. Every time somebody does something, they're evaluated on, and that's kind of what the general evaluator is here for. We have the individual for the individual speakers. General evaluator is looking at how the club acted as a whole. So for our next part, we had Jackie doing our grammarian Toastmaster for tonight. So Jackie, can we get the grammarian's report?
Thank you, Nick. Let me just unlock my phone. Okay, Cameron. I thought your inspirational speech was great. We have a choice every day. 10% of what happens with it, 90% of how you react to that. That really stuck with me. I like that. I don't remember a lot of what people say, so that really stuck with me. Mike, you said a few times, but overall, great voice. David kept us entertained throughout the entire speech. You did not say what I just said at all. And thank you for saying elated, the word of the day. Jamie, you said elated, the word of the day. Martin, you said a few times, but you have a great voice. And Nosi, I couldn't hear you too much, but you did say David, I already talked about you. Nick, no filler. You caught everyone's attention and you said elated, so thank you for that. Mike said a couple, I wrote everyone twice, so just ignore that. Eric, you said elated, and you had a lot of inspirational quotes in your speech. And Elvis, you said elated, and Vanessa, you said elated. So great job. Not a lot of filler words. Was very impressed by David. You didn't have any filler words, but that was really impressive for coming up here and you're not a member. So that really stuck with me. Good job. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Jackie. So let's take a look at the meeting as a whole. We started on time. And tonight was the first night that I watched the schedule minute by minute as people were coming up. On time, on time, on time. And that is an important part of Toastmasters, is the structure and moving through it and not having things drag too far. Even Jamie, great job on stretching the table topics and coming up with some on the fly. We never know how many people are going to volunteer for it, how people are going to be in a meeting. They usually say, most nights I've seen 3, maybe 4. So 5 is way over planning. And even that required some on your feet thinking to keep us on the timetable of the meeting. Cameron, I loved your inspirational thought of the day, the positive thing in choosing your attitude. I saw something the other day that followed that if you have an employee with a positive attitude, they will affect people within a 20-foot radius of them. So if you have an employee with a negative attitude on your team, they would affect that same 20-foot radius, right? Wrong. They will affect the whole floor. The negativity is that much more pervasive than the positive, that you need to strive to bring that positive attitude to the people around you. And I think what I was watching was actually get rid of the negative attitudes because they're that dangerous to an institution. Overall, I think it was a successful meeting. Everybody did a great job in their roles. Many had to fill in last minute. And we appreciate the effort and thank you very much. I believe we're going back to Vanessa, our Toastmaster. Back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Nick. Excellent job as our general evaluator, covering not only the speech, but also the other roles as well. And at this point in the meeting, sometimes we will present awards, although I think tonight, because we only had the one speaker, that automatically first place goes to David. And congratulations, David. And whether or not we're doing table topics, I'm not sure if we are still doing that. And maybe Eric, you'd have a comment on whether we're doing that or whether that has changed. But feel free to chime in if there's anything else.
Thank you, Vanessa. No, not doing it at this time.
Awesome. So everyone wins. Everyone wins table topics. Congratulations all. And again, just thank you all for coming out tonight. I think it was a really inspirational meeting. I always love listening to the speeches, the table topics, and even the roles. You can tell people put effort and preparation into doing their roles, and it just comes across so smoothly and so much professionalism that it is very inspiring and makes me proud of our little club here. So awesome job, everyone. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to Eric, our presiding officer, to close out the meeting.
And we have a really nice hand for Vanessa, who did an outstanding job tonight. And I also want to thank people who were not planning to speak tonight. And you already mentioned a couple of them, Nick. Jackie was one, Elvis was the other. But one of the things that you learn when you join Toastmasters is part of the training, just like with table topics, is to learn to speak, possibly when you weren't expecting to speak. And so to be able to walk into an environment and be asked to fulfill a task is not easy, but that really does happen in the real world. And so this is a great place to train for that kind of issue. I have a couple of things I want to do. We're going to start off with interviewing our guests who have joined us here. And I'll start on this side of the room with David. If you could just give us your feedback on the meeting and any thoughts you want to share beyond that.
You said interview, and I was like, where are they going to ask me? I thought the meeting went well. I love the structure of it. There's your filler word, Jackie. I like the idea of the theme that kind of ties everything all together. So it's not just random speeches all over the place. There's a connection between everything. I like the I guess the formality of switching speakers and saying thank you like you would in any sort of, I guess, more formal setting. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed it.
Thank you. That's what it's all about. Martin?
Thank you. Yeah, no, enjoyed the meeting. It was obviously a little bit quicker, which is sometimes nice. Feel the time here. Can't stop myself, but yeah, glad first time up there. So got that out of the way. I'm glad it did that. Really got to work on the so thank you.
That's why we're here. Enosi?
Yeah, I like how everything turned out. It was my first time getting up there and talking to everybody. Dang. I will work on my dang. I'm starting to notice it, but I will work on my volume when I go up there next time, just to make sure everybody can hear me. I also do appreciate the structure and the feedback as well. So you guys will see me again.
Thank you, guys. This is a safe space for public speaking. No judgment, no criticism, just constructive feedback. Brian, yeah, do you want to just stand up, say hello, or anything at all you wish to share?
Building towards getting up the courage to jump in next time, but everybody did so great. I really liked the how long the table topics lasted and then how it all tied in, and just how easy it is to get up there. And so maybe next time, but really enjoyed it all. Thank you.
Great comment. Thank you very much for mentioning that. I have just a couple of announcements to share with everybody. This may be the second to last time I remind everybody to just pay their dues early. When's the deadline, Jamie? Now. So tonight, please, would you like to add some detail to that? Thank you.
Yes, for our members, this is what I shared a few weeks ago. If you want to lock in $75, which is our current dues for the next 6-month period, I need it by today or this week, the next day or two, because I got to pay it by the end of the month. Toastmasters is increasing dues for the next 6 months by $15. We are going to subsidize some of that, but I don't know exactly what that number is, but it might be $5, it might be $10 more for the next 6-month period. So say 80 or 85. It won't be much more than that, but this is now the time you can lock in at least 75. But it's up to everybody. Otherwise, you have 2 more months until dues will be due for the next 6-month period. If anyone has any questions, email me. I sent an email out not too long ago. If you didn't receive it, just come find me after. Happy to share more.
For those of you who don't know, we are in District 37, which is the entire western half of North Carolina. And there are, how many clubs, David, approximately? 60, 70 clubs? 82 clubs in our district. And each district has a leadership consisting of 3 people, and they're identified as the trio. And one of the 3, the trio, is the club growth director. And they're involved in helping the entire district sustain their clubs, grow their clubs. And for those of you who don't know, David, our current member and past president, is one of those trios. He is the District 37 Club Growth Director, and he is doing many things in Toastmasters, including currently interviewing people who are going to become the president of Toastmasters International. So I'm going to ask him to say a couple of words and just share a few thoughts and maybe let us know anything that's happening in the district. So David, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. There is a standing question on the floor that I'd like to answer. Back in the old days, when you'd write a letter and you took the envelope and you sealed it, they would take wax and they'd put a piece of wax on there from their candle. And they usually had like something like this with the logo, and they'd stick it on there and they let it dry, and that's how they would seal it because they didn't have licking ones. On the secret, that's what that is. It's a letter with the red wax is a circle. There you go. That's what it is. Now for the district, I do get to interview a lot of different people and also talk to the corporate office. This year, they were going to make all of the speech contests in person, which was going to be very difficult. And just now, literally today, they changed it to be hybrid. Therefore, the area, district, and division clubs can all do hybrid meetings. So it don't have to be in person, but in person is always better because that's why you all are here, is you want to speak in person. But we're new as of July 1st is the new district term. So I'm just starting off getting ready, but there's going to be plenty of opportunities this year for demo meetings, which are meetings like this where we go to corporations, and I always will be looking for people to attend those demo meetings to give speeches and do different roles and stuff for prospective clubs. So I'll keep you all in mind since this is my home club. With that, I'll give it back to our president, Kirk.
Thank you, David. I want to invite everybody to start looking at our social media pages. We have now started to keep them current. You may see one of us taking photographs periodically during the meeting of what's happening. We intend to post some of that online. And if you look at our Facebook page last week, it was updated, and we will do the same thing this week, and then start doing the same with our Instagram just to stay current on social media. I want to encourage all members to please, if you haven't already done so, load your photo so we have it when it appears, when your name appears on the agenda. Thank you to those who have already done it. And also, if you can, add a short paragraph to your bio. So on our Meet Our Members page, people can see all of your wonderful faces and who we all are as Queen City Toastmasters. The best news I have tonight is we don't have to clean up the room because of all this setup, but I do want to see if we can get whoever's here and maybe online, a group photo, and maybe one of our guests can volunteer to take a picture when we're done. And then if our guests are okay, we'd like to take a group photo of our guests and even put that on our social media page. If you don't want to be on there, that's fine. You could just let me know. So I will end with a quote from Steve Jobs: "Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow know what you truly want to become." From somebody who really did follow his heart and his intuition, and what a difference he made in the world. With that, I will call our meeting to a close and thank everybody once again. And if everybody can come up here for a quick picture, that would be great. Yeah,
stay on.
Yeah. Elvis and Vanessa,
You can stop.
can you guys stay on? So you'll be in the picture in the background.